I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from. At my daughter's wedding, her new husband pulled me aside and said 4 words that would change everything. You need to leave now. I walked out without a word. Drove 90 minutes home in silence. Didn't cry, didn't scream. Just sat in my car in the driveway until midnight, wondering what I'd done to deserve this. The next morning my phone rang. It was Naomi. Mom, I need the property papers. Logan and I have a business opportunity. In that moment, I realized my daughter had married a stranger, and that stranger wanted the one thing my family had protected for 70 years. Before I tell you what happened next, you need to understand how I got there. You need to know about the morning I woke up excited to see my only child get married, and how that day turned into the beginning of a war I never wanted to fight. The alarm went off at 4:47 a.m. I didn't need it. I'd been awake since 4, staring at the ceiling of my bedroom, watching the darkness soften into gray. My heart had been pounding for hours with that nervous energy that comes before something important, something you've been waiting for your whole life. Naomi's wedding day. I slipped out of bed quietly, though there was no one there to wake. Just the sound of the Georgia morning settling around the farmhouse crickets, still singing heat, already building even in the pre-dawn darkness of late September. In the kitchen, I spread the navy blue dress across the back of the chair. Knee-length conservative, cut the kind of formal thing I never wore. $200. I'd counted out the cash at Dillard's 3 weeks ago, and the cashier's eyes had flickered with something pity maybe as she rang it up. I didn't let it bother me then. Naomi had specifically asked for formal attire for immediate family, and I wasn't going to show up at my only child's wedding looking anything less than put together. My hands shook a little as I made coffee in the chipped mug David had given me 23 years ago, the one that said "World's Best Wife" in faded gold letters. He'd been gone 14 years now, but some mornings I could still hear his voice. "She's going to be such a beautiful bride, Addie," he'd said when Naomi was born. "You're going to be so proud." I poured the coffee and looked at the envelope sitting on the counter. Inside was $8,500 in cash. Every overtime shift I'd picked up at the hospital over the past year was in that envelope. Every weekend I'd skipped my own rest to provide in-home care for families who needed it. Every time I'd stood on my feet until they swelled in those compression socks, helping elderly patients who reminded me that I too was getting older. $8,500. I'd planned to hand it to Naomi quietly during the reception, during one of those rare moments when we might be alone together away from Logan and his family and all the people I didn't know. I'd imagined the conversation, how I'd tell her how proud I was, how much her father would have loved to see this, how beautiful she looked as a bride. I buttoned up the navy dress in front of the bathroom mirror. The fabric was stiff, new, uncomfortable. At 58, I wasn't used to clothes like this anymore. My usual uniform was scrubs for work jeans and t-shirts at home. This dress felt like armor, but not the kind that protected you. My phone buzzed on the counter. A text from Naomi. "Running late. Hairdresser is behind schedule. See you at the venue." No "good morning, Mom." No "I'm so excited." Just logistics. I typed back, "Take your time, sweetheart. Today is all about you." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No response came. I grabbed my purse, checked that the envelope was secure in the inner pocket, and headed for the door. The drive to Atlanta would take 90 minutes from Bibb County. I'd left at 5:15 before the sun had finished rising and pointed my old Camry toward the city. My hands gripped the steering wheel as I drove, and I tried to settle the flutter in my chest. Why was I so nervous? My father used to say that a mother knows things. That instinct runs deeper than logic. "Trust your gut, Joyce," he'd told me years ago when I was young and scared of making wrong choices. Your body knows what your mind hasn't figured out yet. But what was my gut telling me now that everything would change today, that this day would matter in ways I couldn't predict? I pushed the thought away and focused on the road. The highway was mostly empty, just me and a few truckers headed the same direction. I tried to imagine the ceremony. Naomi in white, Logan in his tuxedo, that confident smile he always wore. I'd only met Logan Pierce 3 times before today. The thought hit me suddenly sharp and uncomfortable. My daughter was marrying a man I barely knew, a man who'd swept into her life 8 months ago and proposed after just 5 months of dating, a man whose family I'd never met until 2 weeks ago at the rehearsal dinner where they'd treated me with polite indifference. But Naomi loved him. She told me so over the phone, her voice bright with excitement. "Mom, he's everything I've ever wanted. He's ambitious. Successful, he treats me like a queen. And who was I to question that I was just the mother who worked night shifts at the hospital? The widow living alone on a farm that was slowly falling apart. The woman whose idea of a nice dinner out was Cracker Barrel with a coupon. What did I know about men like Logan Pierce? The wedding venue appeared on the horizon at 9:45 a.m. A converted barn with ivy crawling up the stone walls and massive windows that let in the morning light. Alexis had found it online months ago and immediately called to tell me about it. "Mom, it's perfect," she'd said. "It's rustic but elegant. Logan loves it." I pulled into the parking lot nearly 2 hours early. Perfect time to help with whatever needed doing. As I stepped out of the car and smoothed down my navy dress, I could see them already, the florists arranging towering displays of white roses, the caterers carrying boxes toward the kitchen entrance, the event coordinator moving from station to station with her tablet clutched to her chest. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. Not just the ceremony, though I wanted to see that too, but this moment right here, being needed, being useful, being part of something bigger than myself. I walked toward the entrance, my heels clicking on the stone pathway. A woman in a black pantsuit intercepted me at the door. She had a headset on and the kind of professional smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Can I help you?" she asked. "I'm Addison Bennett, Naomi's mother." Her eyes flicked to her tablet. "Oh, Mrs. Bennett, you're quite early. I thought I could help with preparations. Is there anything I can do?" The smile tightened. "That's very kind, but we have everything under control. The family is asked to arrive at 11 for photos." "I'm family," I said gently. "Yes, of course, but we have a schedule to keep. Perhaps you could wait in the lobby. We'll let you know when we're ready for you." I stood there for a moment, holding my purse with its envelope of cash, feeling suddenly foolish in my $200 dress. "Of course," I said. "I'll wait." I turned and walked back toward the parking lot. Behind me, I heard the coordinator speaking into her headset. "One of the older guests arrived early. I've redirected her." Older guest, not mother of the bride. I sat in my car for the next hour watching people arrive and bustle around the venue. I didn't cry. I didn't feel angry. I just felt very, very small. At 10:30, I got another text from Naomi. "Mom, can you park in the back lot? Logan's family needs the front spaces for their cars." I read the message 3 times before I understood what she was asking. Then I started the engine and moved my car to the back where the catering vans were parked. Something was wrong. I could feel it now, heavy in my chest like a stone. But I'd come this far, and it was my daughter's wedding day. So I got out of the car, smoothed down my dress one more time, and walked back toward the venue with my head held high. The ceremony began at noon. I sat in the 3rd row, not the front row where mothers of the bride traditionally sat. The front row was reserved for Logan's parents. His mother in a cream-colored suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent, his father in an expensive-looking tuxedo with a silk pocket square. The 3rd row behind Logan's grandparents and his sister's family. The coordinator who'd dismissed me earlier had escorted me to the seat herself, her hand firm on my elbow. "This is your spot, Mrs. Bennett. Enjoy the ceremony." I sat down and placed my purse on my lap. Around me, the venue had transformed. White roses everywhere. String lights creating a canopy overhead. A string quartet playing something classical and beautiful. It was perfect. Absolutely perfect. And I was sitting in the 3rd row. The music changed. The processional began. I watched as Logan's groomsmen walked down the aisle with bridesmaids I didn't recognize. Naomi hadn't asked me to help choose them. She'd told me over the phone, matter-of-factly, Logan's sister is helping me with that mom. She knows all these people. Then came Logan himself, walking with his mother on one arm. He looked confident, handsome in his tuxedo. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his smile broad and charming as he greeted guests on both sides of the aisle. When his eyes passed over me, there was no recognition, no warmth, just a flicker of something I couldn't quite read before he looked away. Finally, the music swelled. Everyone stood. Naomi appeared at the back of the barn. My breath caught in my throat. She was beautiful, absolutely stunning. Her white dress hugged her figure before flowing out in a cascade of lace and silk. Her dark hair was swept up in an elegant style with small white flowers woven through it. Her makeup was perfect subtle, making her look both sophisticated and young. She looked nothing like the little girl who used to climb into my lap with chocolate cake on her fingers. She walked down the aisle alone. No father to give her away, David had been gone too long. No mother escorting her. Just Naomi walking toward Logan with a smile I'd never seen before. A smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The ceremony was short. Traditional vows. The exchange of rings. A kiss that felt performative, like they were acting in a movie rather than starting their life together. I now pronounce you husband and wife. Everyone applauded. I clapped too, my hands feeling mechanical. Naomi and Logan walked back down the aisle together. As they passed my row, Naomi's eyes met mine for just a second. Something flickered across her face, guilt-embarrassment before she looked away. The reception began at 1:30 p.m. The barn had been transformed again. Tables with white linens, centerpieces of roses and candles, a DJ setting up equipment in the corner. A massive cake stood on a table by the wall, 4 tiers of white fondant and sugar flowers. I found my seat at a table near the back. Table 8. My place card read simply Addison Bennett. I was seated with people I didn't know, distant relatives of Logan's maybe, or friends of the family. They introduced themselves politely, then turned to talk among themselves about topics I couldn't follow: their vacation homes in Florida, their children at private schools, their country club memberships. I sipped water and watched Naomi and Logan greet their guests. They moved through the room like they owned it, Logan's hand always on Naomi's back, guiding her with easy confidence. She laughed at something he said, her head tilted back, and I tried to remember the last time I'd heard her laugh like that with me. I couldn't. The meal was served. Chicken breast with some kind of sauce I couldn't identify. Vegetables that looked beautiful but tasted bland. I ate mechanically, half listening to the conversation around me. "Excuse me," I said during a lull. "I'm Naomi's mother." The woman to my right looked at me with surprise. "Oh, I didn't realize. We thought you were, well, we weren't sure." What had they thought, that I was someone's elderly aunt, a friend of the family? The help I didn't ask. I just smiled and turned back to my plate. After dinner came the speeches. Logan's father stood up, champagne glass in hand, and talked about his son's accomplishments, his business success, his ambition, his bright future with this beautiful young woman he's chosen to marry. He didn't mention Naomi's name. Not once. Then Logan's sister gave a toast. She talked about how lucky Naomi was to marry into such a wonderful family, how Logan had dated many women, but Naomi was special, how they'd welcomed her with open arms. No one mentioned me. No one mentioned David. No one acknowledged that Naomi had a family of her own, a history before Logan Pierce entered her life. I sat at table 8 in my $200 dress, clutching the envelope with $8,500, and realized something I should have seen months ago. I had been erased. I waited until the dancing started, until people were distracted by the music and the open bar. Then I stood up from table 8 and made my way toward the front where Naomi stood with a group of bridesmaids. "Naomi," I said, touching her arm gently. "Sweetheart, can we talk for a minute?" She turned and her face changed. The bright smile faded into something harder, more guarded. "Mom, are you having a good time?" "Yes, it's lovely. I just wanted to Naomi." Logan appeared at her side, materializing like he'd been watching. "Everything okay here?" "Fine," Naomi said quickly. "My mom just wanted to say hi." Logan looked at me for the first time all day. Really looked at me. His eyes were sharp, calculating. The charming smile he'd worn during the ceremony was gone. "Mrs. Bennett," he said. His voice was polite, but there was steel underneath. "Could I speak with you for a moment privately?" He didn't wait for an answer. He took my elbow firmly the way the coordinator had earlier and guided me away from Naomi, away from the reception, toward a quiet corner near the entrance. "Mr. Pierce," I started. "I just wanted to—" "I need to be honest with you," he interrupted. His voice was low, controlled, professional. "This is difficult for me to say, but I think it needs to be said." My stomach tightened. "What needs to be said?" "Your energy today has been making Naomi uncomfortable." I stared at him. "My energy. She's torn between enjoying her wedding day and managing your expectations." He said it gently, like he was delivering bad news to a patient. "You have to understand this is a very important day for her, for us. And having to worry about how you're feeling, whether you're being included enough, whether you're happy with your seat assignment," he trailed off, shaking his head. "It's creating emotional labor she shouldn't have to deal with today." "I haven't said anything about—" "It's not about what you've said, Mrs. Bennett. It's about your presence. The way you've been hovering, watching her. He paused, choosing his words carefully. It's making her feel guilty for wanting to enjoy her own wedding. My hands started to shake. I'm her mother. I'm supposed to be here. Of course you are. And you've been here. You've seen the ceremony. You've had the meal. But I think... He glanced back toward the reception where I could see Naomi watching us, her face anxious. I think it would be best for everyone if you left now. For Naomi's sake. The words didn't make sense at first, like he was speaking a language I didn't understand. You're asking me to leave my daughter's wedding reception. I'm asking you to give her the gift of not having to worry about you right now. She loves you, Mrs. Bennett, but she needs space to live her own life, to start her new life with me. And I think the kindest thing you could do is respect that boundary. He used all the right words. Boundary, emotional labor, space, gift. The kind of therapy language that sounded reasonable, mature, enlightened. But what he was really saying was, get out. I looked past him toward Naomi. Our eyes met across the crowded reception. I waited for her to shake her head, to mouth the word no, to come over and tell Logan he was being ridiculous. She didn't move. She just stood there, arms crossed, and looked away. Okay, I heard myself say. I understand. Logan's hand was still on my elbow. He squeezed it not quite hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to make his point. Thank you for understanding. This shows real maturity. He released me and walked back toward Naomi. I watched him whisper something in her ear. She nodded, relief visible in her shoulders. I stood there for another moment looking at my daughter in her beautiful white dress. At the reception I'd helped pay for with my overtime shifts. At the life she was starting without me. Then I turned and walked toward the exit. My heels clicked on the marble floor. The sound echoed through the lobby. No one called my name. No one asked where I was going. I reached my car in the back lot, got in, set my purse on the passenger seat, the envelope with $8,500 still inside. I'd imagined giving it to Naomi, watching her eyes light up, hearing her say, "Thank you, Mom. Thank you for everything." Instead, I sat in my car as the Georgia afternoon heat built around me, and I didn't turn on the engine. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, my hands gripping the wheel, my navy dress suddenly feeling like a costume I should never have worn. Outside through the windows of the venue, I could see the reception continuing. People dancing, laughing, celebrating. Inside my car, everything had gone very, very cold. I didn't turn the key in the ignition for 20 minutes. I sat in the parking lot of that beautiful converted barn watching the sun move across the sky, listening to the muffled sound of music from inside. Someone had opened a window, and I could hear laughter. A woman's voice, not Naomi's, saying something that made everyone cheer. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I looked down at them 58-year-old hands with prominent veins and age spots I tried not to think about. These hands had changed Naomi's diapers, had braided her hair for school, had held her when she cried after David died, had worked 10,000 night shifts at the hospital to keep food on the table, and they'd just been deemed unwelcome at her wedding reception. Finally, at 3:47 p.m., I started the car. The drive home was 90 minutes. No radio, no podcasts, no music playing softly to fill the silence. Just me, the road, and the questions that wouldn't stop circling. What did I do wrong? The question arrived without warning, uninvited and sharp. It lodged itself in my chest like something that had been thrown there with force. For 30 years, I'd worked those night shifts at the hospital. 12-hour stretches on my feet, my compression socks digging into my calves, my back screaming by hour 9. I'd come home at dawn to a quiet house and Naomi, my baby girl, already up for school, her backpack waiting by the door. How much had I sacrificed for her? Every dollar had mattered. Summer camps when other kids were going and she didn't want to be left out. New clothes when hers wore thin. Ballet lessons she'd asked for in middle school, even though we couldn't quite afford them. The used car I'd bought her for her 16th birthday, nothing fancy but reliable enough to get her to school and back. When David died 14 years ago, when Naomi was only 9 years old, I'd never once let her feel the weight of grief without someone holding her through it. That someone was always me. Why did she treat me like that? My jaw had clenched so tightly I could feel the muscle working beneath my skin. But I wasn't crying. Crying would have been easier somehow. Crying would have been a release. Instead, I sat with this cold, hollow feeling, the kind of silence that echoes louder than any scream. The highway stretched ahead of me, mile after mile of Georgia landscape in late afternoon light. I thought about the nights David and I had made this drive together, how he'd always insisted on driving so I could rest. He'd play classical music softly on the radio and reach over to squeeze my hand. "You're a good mother," he'd told me once. "Naomi's lucky to have you." But Naomi didn't feel lucky today, and I wasn't feeling like a good mother. The road wound through familiar territory, past small towns whose names I knew by heart, past turnoffs I'd memorized decades ago. I passed the exit for the diner where David and I used to stop for coffee on Sunday mornings. Past the farm supply store where I bought feed for the chickens I'd given up keeping 3 years ago because it was too much work alone. Everything reminded me of before. Before David died. Before Naomi grew up. Before Logan Pierce. Who was he really? The question surfaced slowly, pushing through the fog of hurt. I'd met him 3 times. 3 times in 8 months of dating my daughter. First time a quick dinner at Cracker Barrel near my house. He'd been charming, polite, asked about my work. But his eyes had flickered around the restaurant, and I'd caught him checking his phone twice during the meal. Second time coffee at a Starbucks in Atlanta when I'd driven up to see Naomi. He'd dominated the conversation talking about real estate development and his business plans. When I'd asked about his family, he'd been vague. "Successful people," he'd said. "You'll meet them at the wedding." Third time the rehearsal dinner 2 weeks ago. He'd been professional, distant. His family had been polite but cool. And when I'd tried to talk to Naomi alone, Logan had appeared at her elbow every time. I didn't know him. I didn't know what he did for a living, really. I didn't know where he'd grown up. I didn't know what his marriage proposals had been like or whether he'd asked my permission first. He hadn't. I didn't know this man who'd just asked me to leave my daughter's wedding. The sun was setting by the time I reached Bibb County. The farmhouse appeared on the horizon, white paint-peeling porch, sagging slightly on one side, the land stretching out behind it for 55 acres my great-grandfather had bought in 1954. I pulled into the driveway and turned off the engine. The porch light was on. I'd left it burning that morning when everything still felt possible. I couldn't go inside yet. Something was shifting inside me, something I couldn't quite name. It wasn't anger exactly. It was colder than that, more purposeful. And tomorrow morning I could feel it coming like a storm on the horizon. Tomorrow everything was going to change again. But tonight I just sat in the darkness of my car in the driveway, watching the first stars appear in the Georgia sky. At 11:43 p.m. I finally went inside. I hung the navy dress in my closet, placed the envelope with $8,500 on my dresser, washed the makeup off my face and looked at myself in the mirror. I looked old, tired, defeated. But somewhere underneath that exhaustion, something else was building. Something harder than sadness. Something that would carry me through whatever came next. The next morning, the sun was already brutal by 8:30 a.m. I was on my knees in the garden behind the house, my hands deep in the soil, pulling at the weeds that had overtaken the vegetable beds while I'd been preparing for the wedding. The dirt was warm and damp, and there was something almost meditative about the work, the simple repetitive motion of yanking unwanted growth from the earth. It was easier to focus on the weeds than to think about yesterday. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I almost didn't answer. I almost let it go to voicemail. But something made me check, and when I saw Naomi's name on the screen, I wiped my hands on my jeans and picked up. "Mom." Her voice sounded different. Not angry like it had been at the venue. Not cold. Instead, she sounded rushed, energetic even. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something important." I stood up slowly, my knees protesting. "I'm listening, sweetheart." "First, I'm really sorry about yesterday, about what Logan said. It was a stressful day and he was trying to protect me and—" She stopped herself. "Anyway, that's not why I'm calling. I have something exciting to tell you." Exciting. The word felt wrong after yesterday, but I waited. "Logan and I have this incredible business opportunity, Mom. It's the kind of thing that could set us up for life, but we need your help to make it happen." My hands went cold despite the heat of the morning. What kind of opportunity? Real estate development. Logan has all this experience. He's been studying the market, talking to investors, and we found the perfect property to start with. What property? There was a pause. Brief, but long enough for my stomach to drop. "The farm, Mom. Your farm. I moved toward the porch, needing to sit down. Naomi, what are you talking about? We want to develop it. Subdivide it into lots, maybe 12 or 15, and build modern homes. Mom, the returns would be incredible. We're talking millions of dollars. I sat down on the porch step, the phone pressed tight against my ear. My great-grandfather's farm. 55 acres of Georgia land that had been in our family for 70 years. Sweetheart, this land has been— I know the history, Mom, but history doesn't pay bills. Logan says the property is worth at least $1 million as is, but developed, we could get 3, maybe 4 million. And here's the best part. We're not asking you to give it up for nothing. We'll give you 40%. That's over $200,000 for you, Mom. Maybe more. $200,000. The number hung in the air between us. Naomi, I need to understand this. You're asking me to sell the Bennett farm. Not sell it. Transfer the property to us. We'll handle the development and you get your share. You could retire, Mom. You could stop working those awful night shifts. You could actually enjoy your life. I thought about my great-grandfather William Bennett working 30 years at the textile mill to save enough money to buy this land. I thought about my father maintaining it through droughts and recessions. I thought about David walking these fields every morning before work, his coffee cup in hand, planning improvements he never got to see completed. This land is our family legacy, I said quietly. No, Mom, this land is dirt. Our legacy is each other. And right now, Logan and I need this opportunity. We need you to trust us. I need time to think. We don't have time. Her voice sharpened. Logan has a meeting with investors on Thursday. That's 4 days from now. They need to know we have control of the property. If we can't show them that we lose the deal. 4 days, from Sunday to Thursday. That's not enough time to make a decision like this. Mom, please. And now her voice changed again, becoming smaller, almost pleading. This is my future. Our future. Logan says this could be the thing that launches his career. Don't you want that for me? The trap was so perfectly constructed I almost didn't see it. If I said no, I was the bad mother who didn't want her daughter to succeed. If I hesitated, I was the controlling mother who couldn't let go. Let me think about it, I said. Thursday, Mom. Logan needs an answer by Thursday morning. Can you please think about what this means for us? She hung up before I could respond. I sat on the porch step staring at my phone. Around me, the farm was waking up birds in the old oak tree William had planted in 1954. A breeze moving through the fields where my father had worked for 40 years, the sound of cicadas building their morning chorus. 70 years of history. 7 decades of Bennett family sweat and sacrifice. And Naomi wanted to turn it into a subdivision. My phone buzzed again. A text from her. Please, Mom. This is really important. Logan says if you don't help us, we might lose everything. I didn't respond. Another text. Just say yes, please. Don't make this difficult. And another, Mom. And another, are you mad at me? 10 texts in 5 minutes. Then the phone rang again. I didn't answer. It rang 7 more times over the next hour. Voicemails started piling up. I listened to the first 2. Mom, pick up. We need to talk about this. Logan says timing is everything with these investors. Mom, please. Why are you being like this? I thought you'd be excited for me. By noon, I'd received 47 calls and 32 texts. Mom, please call me back. Logan says if you're not interested in the 40%, we could negotiate higher. Mom, this is serious. Why are you ignoring me? Do you not care about my future? Logan thinks you're trying to control me again. That last one made me stop. Again. As if I'd been controlling her all along. As if protecting her as a child, raising her alone after David died, working myself to exhaustion to give her opportunities, as if all of that was control, not love. I set the phone down and looked out at the 55 acres stretching behind the house. The land looked the same as it always had. The same as it had looked when I was a child running through these fields with my father. The same as when David proposed to me under that old oak tree in 1985. The same as when 9-year-old Naomi stood in the grass after her father's funeral and cried so hard she could barely breathe. The farm will always be here, I'd told her that day. We'll always be here. But now she wanted to turn it into something else, something unrecognizable. My phone rang again. This time I answered. Naomi, Mom, thank God. Listen, Logan wants to talk to you directly. He can explain the opportunity better than I can. Can you come to Atlanta tomorrow? We could have lunch, go over the numbers. Naomi, stop. She went quiet. I need you to listen to me very carefully, I said. This farm has been in our family for 70 years. Your great-grandfather bought it in 1954. Your grandfather maintained it for 40 years. Your father loved this land like it was part of his own soul. And you want me to sell it to investors so they can build houses. It's not selling, Mom. It's developing. It's maximizing the property's potential. Whose words are those? Whose words are you using, maximizing the property's potential? That doesn't sound like you, Naomi. That sounds like Logan. He's my husband, Mom. We're a team. His words are my words now. The statement hit me like a slap. Naomi, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Did Logan know about the farm before you started dating? A pause. Too long. What kind of question is that? A simple one. Did he know? I might have mentioned it. I don't remember exactly. You don't remember if you told your boyfriend that your family owned 55 acres of land in Georgia. Mom, you're making this sound like what? Like maybe he was interested in more than just you. How dare you? Her voice turned sharp, angry. How dare you suggest that Logan only married me for money? That's insulting to both of us. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm asking a question. Well, here's my answer. Logan loves me. And if you can't see that, if you're so bitter and suspicious that you have to question my marriage. She stopped, and I heard her take a breath. When she spoke again, her voice was colder. Logan said you might react like this. He said you might try to sabotage our happiness because you're alone and miserable. The words were like ice water. Logan said that he warned me that you might not be able to handle me moving on with my life, that you might try to maintain control by withholding support. And I didn't want to believe him, Mom. I didn't want to think you'd be that petty. But here we are. Naomi. Thursday, Mom. We need your answer by Thursday morning. Either you support us or... She trailed off. Or what? Or Logan says he'll have to tell people the truth about you, about how controlling you are, about how you've always tried to keep me dependent on you, about how you're the reason we almost didn't get married because you kept trying to interfere. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. That's a threat. It's not a threat, Mom. It's what he'll have to do. To protect me. To protect our future. From me? Yes. Her voice was flat, now empty of emotion. From you. We sat in silence for a long moment. I need to go, she finally said. Think about what I said. Think about whether you want to be part of your daughter's future, or not. The line went dead. I sat on the porch step as the Georgia sun climbed higher in the sky. My phone was still in my hand, Naomi's threat still echoing in my ears. 47 calls in one morning, 32 texts, threats disguised as concern, manipulation disguised as opportunity, and 4 days to make a decision that would either destroy my family's legacy or destroy my relationship with my daughter. I looked down at my hands, still shaking, still covered in dirt from the garden. The same hands that had held Naomi as a baby. The same hands that had signed David's death certificate. The same hands that had worked 10,000 night shifts to keep us afloat. These hands were about to make a decision. But first, I needed to know exactly who Logan Pierce was. For 2 days, the calls continued. Monday, 32 calls, 40 texts, 1 voicemail from Logan himself. Mrs. Bennett, I hope we can resolve this situation like adults. Naomi is very upset. I'd hate to see this damage your relationship permanently. Tuesday, 28 calls, 35 texts, another voicemail from Logan. Mrs. Bennett, the investors are getting impatient. We're running out of time. I'm sure you don't want to be responsible for destroying your daughter's future. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I sat in my farmhouse and did something I should have done 8 months ago when Naomi first told me about Logan Pierce. I tried to research him. I Googled Logan Pierce Real Estate Georgia. Nothing substantial came up. A few LinkedIn profiles that might have been him. A Facebook page that was private. No company website. No business listings. No news articles about successful developments. For a man who supposedly had all this experience in real estate development, Logan Pierce had almost no digital footprint. I tried different searches. Logan Pierce Atlanta. Logan Pierce Developer. Logan Pierce Investment. Still nothing. On Tuesday evening, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open and my phone buzzing with another call from Naomi. I let it go to voicemail. The house was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that had become normal after David died, but that I'd never quite gotten used to. Some nights, the silence felt like company. Other nights, like tonight, it felt like abandonment. I thought about calling Naomi back. I thought about saying yes just to end the harassment, just to get my daughter back. But then I thought about William Bennett losing 3 fingers in a mill accident and still saving every penny for 30 years to buy this land. I thought about my father working these fields in brutal Georgia summers, teaching me that some things were worth more than money. I thought about David walking these acres every morning telling me, "This is our legacy, Addie. This is what we leave behind." And I thought about his voice 2 weeks before he died when he'd pulled me close and whispered, "If anything ever happens to the farm, if someone ever tries to take it, you fight Addie. You fight with everything you have." At 9:47 p.m. on Tuesday night, I made a decision. I closed the laptop, picked up my phone, and scrolled through my contacts until I found the name I was looking for, Catherine Shaw. Catherine had been my lawyer for 2 years, ever since David passed, and I'd needed help understanding the paperwork he'd left behind. She was in her early 60s, sharp as a tack with gray hair she wore in a practical bun, and the kind of eyes that had seen too much human pain to be easily shocked by anything. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over her name. It was almost 10 p.m. Too late to call, but if I didn't call now, I might lose my nerve. I pressed the button. She answered on the 3rd ring. "Addison, is everything okay?" "Catherine, I'm sorry to call so late. I need help. Legal help." "What's happened?" So I told her. I told her about the wedding, about being asked to leave, about Naomi's call the next morning demanding the farm. I told her about Logan Pierce, about the investor meeting on Thursday, about the 47 calls and the threats disguised as concern. Catherine didn't interrupt. She just listened, and I could hear her pen moving across paper as she took notes. When I finished, there was a long silence. "Addison," she finally said, "I need to ask you a direct question, and I need you to answer honestly. Do you trust this man, Logan Pierce?" "No," I said. "I don't. I've met him 3 times, and I don't know anything real about him. I don't know where he works or what he does or where his money comes from. All I know is that my daughter married him, and 24 hours later, he wants my family's land." "And Naomi, do you think she's being manipulated?" I thought about my daughter's voice on the phone, the phrases that didn't sound like her, the coldness that had never been there before. "Yes," I whispered. "I think she's being manipulated. But Catherine, what if I'm wrong? What if this is real and I'm just a bitter old woman who can't let go? You're 58, Addison. That's not old. And from what you've told me, you have every reason to be suspicious." I heard papers rustling. "Listen to me carefully. I want you to come to my office tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. Don't call Naomi back. Don't respond to Logan. Just come to my office." "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to find out who Logan Pierce really is. And if he's what I think he is, we're going to need to act fast." "Catherine, I don't have much money for—" "We'll figure out the money. Right now we need information. Can you come tomorrow?" I looked around my quiet kitchen, at the table where David and I used to eat breakfast, at the window overlooking the fields that had sustained 4 generations of Bennetts, at the life I'd built here alone, but not broken. "Yes," I said. "I'll be there at 9. Good. And Addison, whatever happens, whatever we find out, you did the right thing by calling me. Sometimes protecting the people we love means protecting them from themselves." After we hung up, I sat in the darkness of my kitchen for a long time. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Naomi. "Mom, it's Tuesday night. Thursday is less than 48 hours away. Please, just say yes. Don't make me choose between you and Logan." I read the text 3 times before I understood what she was really saying. She'd already chosen Logan. I just hadn't accepted it yet. I turned off my phone, walked to my bedroom, and lay down fully clothed on top of the covers. Outside, I could hear the night sounds of the farm cicadas, a distant owl, the wind moving through the old oak tree. Tomorrow, I would drive to Catherine's office. Tomorrow, I would find out who Logan Pierce really was. Tomorrow, I would begin fighting for my family's legacy. But tonight, I just lay in the darkness and remembered what it felt like when my daughter still loved me. Wednesday morning arrived cold and gray. I woke up at 5 a.m. after maybe 3 hours of sleep. The house felt different somehow, not like home anymore, but like a place I was visiting. A place I might be leaving soon. I made coffee in David's old mug and stood at the kitchen window watching the sun rise over the fields. Somewhere out there was the spot where my great-grandfather had stood in 1954 and decided this land was worth 30 years of his life. Somewhere out there was the oak tree where David had proposed to me 40 years ago. And somewhere in Atlanta, my daughter was waking up next to a man who wanted to turn all of it into a housing development. My phone was still off. I'd turned it off Tuesday night and hadn't looked at it since. Part of me was terrified to turn it back on, terrified of how many messages would be waiting, how angry Naomi would be, how much further away from me she'd moved in the hours I'd been silent. But another part of me, a harder part, a part that sounded like my father and David and William Bennett all at once. That part said, let her be angry, let her wait. You need answers first. At 7:30 a.m. I got in my car and drove to Macon. Catherine Shaw's office was in a modest brick building downtown, sandwiched between a dental practice and an accountant's office. I'd been here twice before, once when David died, and I'd needed help with his estate, and once last year when I'd updated my own will. The waiting room was small but tidy. Beige walls, landscape paintings that looked like they came from a hotel. A coffee maker in the corner with styrofoam cups stacked beside it. Catherine came out at exactly 9 a.m. She was wearing gray slacks and a white blouse, her hair pulled back in that practical bun. But her eyes were sharp alert, the eyes of someone who'd been working since dawn. Addison, she said, extending her hand. Come in. Her office was larger than the waiting room, but just as modest. A mahogany desk covered with files and legal pads. Bookshelves filled with law books. 2 chairs across from her desk, both well-worn leather. She gestured for me to sit, then closed the door behind us. Before we start, she said, settling into her chair, I need to be very clear about something. What I'm going to tell you, what we're going to discuss this, is serious. This isn't just family drama or a disagreement about property. If what I suspect is true, your daughter may be in real danger. My stomach dropped. What kind of danger? Let me start from the beginning. Catherine opened a file on her desk. After you called last night, I couldn't sleep. So I did what I do when I can't sleep. I worked. I made some calls to colleagues. I ran some searches. And Addison, she looked up at me. I found things about Logan Pierce that you need to know. Tell me. Catherine pulled out a printed document. Logan Michael Pierce, age 31, born in Jacksonville, Florida, moved to Atlanta 5 years ago. On paper, he's a real estate consultant. But dig deeper and the picture gets much more complicated. She slid the first document across the desk to me. It was a legal filing dated 2019. 5 years ago, Logan was sued by a group of investors in Tampa. They claimed he misrepresented a development project, told them it would generate a 20% return, then diverted the funds to personal expenses. The case was settled out of court for $85,000. I stared at the document. He was sued for fraud. The settlement terms included a confidentiality agreement, so it never made the news. But yes, essentially fraud. She pulled out another document. 2 years later, 2021. Another lawsuit, this time in Atlanta. He was named in a case involving misappropriation of investor funds. The case was dismissed on a technicality, but Addison, the evidence was damning. Investors lost over $300,000. My hands were shaking. I set the documents down on her desk. There's more, Catherine said gently. Logan Pierce has approximately $120,000 in outstanding debt. Credit cards, personal loans, money owed to former business partners. He doesn't own property. He doesn't own a car, he leases it. His apartment in Atlanta is rented, and he's 2 months behind on payments. But at the wedding, his family, they seemed wealthy. They are wealthy, or they were. His father, Richard Pierce, owned a successful construction company that went bankrupt in 2010 during the recession. Lost everything. Logan has been trying to rebuild that wealth ever since, and he doesn't care who he uses to do it. I felt sick. Naomi doesn't know any of this. I don't think she does. But Addison, there's something else you need to hear. Catherine pulled out her phone and placed it on the desk between us. Last night I contacted a private investigator I've worked with before. He made some calls. One of them was to Logan's ex-wife. Ex-wife. The word hit me like a punch. Naomi never mentioned Jessica Hartwell, now remarried. She was married to Logan from 2020 to 2022. 2 years. Catherine tapped her phone. She agreed to speak on record. I recorded the conversation with her permission. Do you want to hear it? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Catherine pressed play. A woman's voice came through the speaker, young, tired, with a slight southern accent. Logan was charming when we met. Swept me off my feet, you know. We got married after 6 months of dating. I thought he was ambitious driven. Turned out he was just desperate. Can you explain what you mean by desperate? That was Catherine's voice. He was obsessed with money, not in a normal way, in this consuming way. He'd talk about investments constantly, about real estate opportunities, about making it big. And whenever I asked about his past projects, he'd change the subject or get defensive. Did he ever ask about your family's finances? A long pause on the recording. Then yes. About 3 months into the marriage, he started asking about my parents, whether they owned property, whether they had savings. My dad owned a small business, nothing huge but stable. Logan kept suggesting we should get my parents to invest in his projects. Did they? No, my dad didn't trust him. And when Logan realized he wasn't going to get anything from my family, the woman's voice broke slightly. He became different, cold, started staying out late, being secretive with his phone. We separated 6 months later, divorced a year after that. Ms. Hartwell, I need to ask you something directly. In your opinion, did Logan Pierce marry you for love or for access to your family's money? Another long pause. Then, he married me because he thought I was his ticket to wealth. And when I wasn't, he moved on. That's what Logan does. He finds women who have something he wants and he takes it. I just hope whoever he's with now sees through him before it's too late. The recording ended. I sat in Catherine's office, unable to move, unable to speak. The walls felt like they were closing in. Addison, Catherine's voice was gentle. Are you okay? My daughter, I whispered. My daughter married this man. I know. She has no money. We're not wealthy. What could he possibly? I stopped. Understanding hit me like ice water. The farm. Yes, Catherine said quietly. The farm. I don't remember driving home from Catherine's office. One moment I was sitting in that leather chair, staring at legal documents about fraud and manipulation. The next moment I was pulling into my driveway in Bibb County, the afternoon sun beating down on my windshield. I sat in the car for a long time, Catherine's words echoing in my head. Your daughter may be in real danger. But what kind of danger? Logan wasn't violent. At least there was no record of violence. He was something else, something colder. He was the kind of man who used people like tools, discarding them when they were no longer useful. And now he had Naomi. I finally forced myself to go inside. The house was exactly as I'd left it that morning, coffee cup in the sink. David's photograph on the mantel, the silence that had become my constant companion. I turned on my phone. Immediately it started buzzing. Notification after notification flooding the screen like an avalanche. 67 missed calls, 89 text messages, 14 voicemails, all from Naomi, all from Logan. I sat at the kitchen table and started reading the texts, starting from where I'd left off Tuesday night. Wednesday, 12:47 a.m. Mom, please, you're scaring me. Why won't you answer? Wednesday, 2:15 a.m. Logan says if we don't hear from you by morning, we'll have to assume you're not interested in helping. Wednesday, 7:30 a.m. Mom, it's Wednesday. The meeting is tomorrow. Please. Wednesday, 9:02 a.m. I don't understand why you're doing this, why you're punishing me. Wednesday, 10:45 a.m. Logan is really upset. He says you're being manipulative and controlling. Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. Fine, don't answer. We'll figure this out without you. Wednesday, 1:15 p.m. You're going to regret this, Mom. When Logan and I are successful, when we've built our empire, you're going to regret turning your back on us. Wednesday, 2:47 p.m. I can't believe you'd rather protect dirt than protect your daughter's future. Wednesday, 4:03 p.m. Logan says you've always been jealous of me, of my happiness. He says that's why you never liked him. The texts got progressively angrier, more desperate. But it was the voicemails that broke my heart. I listened to the first one from early Wednesday morning. Naomi's voice was small, frightened. Mom, where are you? Logan keeps asking if you've called back, and I don't know what to tell him. He's getting really stressed about the investor meeting. Please just call me. Even if it's to say no. I need to hear your voice. The second voicemail was different, harder. Mom, this is ridiculous. You're being incredibly selfish. Do you know how important this is? Do you even care about me anymore, or is holding on to that stupid farm more important than your own daughter? The third voicemail was Logan's voice. Mrs. Bennett, this is Logan. I'm disappointed that we haven't been able to reach you. Naomi is very distressed by your silence. As her husband, it's my responsibility to protect her emotional well-being. If you continue to ignore her calls, I'll have to assume you're intentionally causing her harm, and I'll have no choice but to take appropriate action. The threat was subtle, but unmistakable. I set the phone down and looked out the window at the farm. The sun was starting to set, casting long shadows across the fields. In a few hours it would be dark. In a few more hours it would be Thursday, the day of Logan's investor meeting, the day he expected me to hand over my family's legacy. My phone rang. I looked at the screen. Naomi. For the first time in 2 days, I answered. Mom. Her voice was thick with tears. Mom, finally. Where have you been? I've been so worried. Naomi, I need to tell you something about Logan. Not this again. Mom, please. He was married before. Did you know that? Silence. Her name is Jessica Hartwell. He was married to her for 2 years. He divorced her in 2022. That's not true. Logan would have told me. He's been sued twice for fraud. Once in Tampa, once in Atlanta. He owes over $100,000 in debt. He doesn't own anything, Naomi. No house, no car, nothing. He's 2 months behind on his rent. Stop it. Her voice was shaking. Stop lying about him. I'm not lying. I hired a lawyer. She has documents, court records, everything. Naomi Logan Pierce is not who you think he is. You hired a lawyer? She sounded stunned. You've been investigating my husband. I've been protecting my daughter. No. Her voice turned sharp. No, you've been trying to control me. You've been trying to sabotage my marriage because you can't stand that I'm happy, that I have someone who actually cares about me. Naomi, Logan was right about you. He said you'd try something like this. He said you'd make up lies to try to break us up. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear my own voice. Sweetheart, listen to me. I spoke to his ex-wife. She said, I don't care what some bitter ex-wife said. People lie, Mom. People make up stories. But I know Logan. I know him better than anyone. And he loves me. Does he know about the farm? Another silence. Answer me, Naomi. When did you tell him about the Bennett farm? Before you started dating or after? I don't remember. Yes, you do. Think. When did he find out about the 55 acres your family owns? Her voice wavered. It came up in conversation. Early on. I mentioned it and he was interested. Interested in you or interested in the property. How dare you? But there was something in her voice now. Doubt. Fear. How dare you suggest, Naomi, I love you. I have always loved you. But this man is using you to get to our family's land. And if you can't see that... I'm done. Her voice went cold. I'm done listening to this. Logan said you'd try to turn me against him. He said you'd make up horrible lies. And I didn't want to believe you were that cruel. But here we are. Please just look at the evidence. The only evidence I need is that Logan loves me and you don't. Tomorrow morning we're meeting with investors. And we're going to build our future together. With or without your blessing. With or without that stupid farm. Naomi, the line went dead. I sat at my kitchen table as darkness fell over Bibb County. My phone was silent now. No more calls. No more texts. Just the crushing weight of knowing I'd lost my daughter. Or maybe I'd never really had her at all. At 9:15 p.m., my phone rang again. Not Naomi this time. Catherine. Addison, I need you to come back to my office. Tonight. Catherine, it's after 9. I found something. Something you need to see immediately. How fast can you get here? The urgency in her voice made my stomach drop. 30 minutes. I'll be waiting. I grabbed my keys and drove through the dark Georgia night back to Macon. Catherine's office building was dark except for one window on the second floor, hers. She buzzed me in and met me at the door to her office. Her hair was loose now, falling around her shoulders, and she looked exhausted. What did you find? I asked. She didn't answer. She just gestured to her desk where her laptop was open and surrounded by printouts. After you left this afternoon, I kept digging, she said. And I found something in your husband's old files. Something I think he wanted you to find if this moment ever came. She pulled out a folder. On the tab, written in faded ink, was David's handwriting, "For Addison, in case of emergency." My hands trembled as I took the folder. "David left this with his estate lawyer in 2010, Catherine said softly. 14 years ago, a few months before he died. The lawyer kept it in storage and only recently transferred the files to me when his firm dissolved. I didn't know it existed until I went looking through your old documents tonight." I opened the folder. Inside was a letter written in David's handwriting on legal pad paper. The date at the top said April 15th, 2010. "My dearest Addie, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone, and it means something has happened, something that requires you to make a difficult choice about the Bennett farm. I've been thinking a lot lately about legacy, about what we leave behind. And I've realized that the greatest threat to our family's land won't come from outside forces, it will come from within, from someone who sees the property as money rather than history. I may not live to see who that person is, but I have a feeling deep in my gut that someone will try to take the farm from you one day, someone who uses love as a weapon, someone who manipulates our daughter into thinking they need it. Addie, I need you to know something. You have the power to protect this land forever, and I need you to use it if the time comes. I've spoken to James Patterson about setting up a conservation trust. It's a legal mechanism that would transfer the Bennett farm into protected status permanently. The land could never be sold, never be subdivided, never be developed. It would belong to the future to everyone and no one. I know this means Naomi couldn't inherit it. I know it means giving up ownership. But Addie, some things are more important than inheritance. Some things need to be preserved, not possessed. If you're reading this letter, it means you're facing that choice now. And I want you to know, whatever you decide, I support you. But please, please consider the trust. Consider protecting what William and your father and I spent our lives maintaining. Don't let someone destroy it for short-term gain. Don't let our daughter be used as a tool to take what isn't theirs. I trust you, Addie. I've always trusted you. You're stronger than you know. I love you. I will always love you. And I'll be with you no matter what you decide. Forever yours, David. I couldn't see the words anymore. Tears were streaming down my face, making the ink blur and run. David had known. 14 years ago, dying in a hospital bed, he'd known this moment would come. Addison, Catherine said gently. There's more. David didn't just write the letter. He prepared all the documents for the Conservation Trust. They're ready to be executed. All you need to do is sign. She pulled out another stack of papers. Official legal documents, David's signature already on some of them, blank spaces waiting for mine. If you sign these, Catherine explained, the Bennett farm becomes protected land. It will be managed by a board of trustees. It can never be sold or developed. It will exist in its current state forever. But Naomi will have no claim to it. Neither will Logan. Neither will anyone. The property belongs to the trust. I looked at the documents, then at David's letter, then out the window at the dark Macon streets. How long do I have to decide? Logan's meeting with investors is tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. If you're going to do this, you need to sign before then. Once he presents the farm to investors as available property, things get more complicated. Tomorrow morning, I repeated. That's less than 12 hours. Catherine nodded. I know it's fast. I know it's an impossible choice. But Addison, I need to tell you something else. She pulled out one more document. I did some more digging into Logan's investor meeting. The man he's meeting with is James Whitmore. He has a reputation in Atlanta real estate circles. Multiple projects have failed. Investors have lost millions. If Logan partners with him, if they develop your farm, she looked at me directly. There's a strong chance the project will fail. Naomi could lose everything, her money, her marriage, her future. This man will destroy her life. But if I sign these papers, she'll hate me. Yes, Catherine said simply. She probably will, for a while, maybe for a long time. So my choice is between protecting the land and protecting my daughter's love for me. No, Catherine said. Your choice is between protecting the land and enabling her destruction. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is say no, even when it costs us everything. I sat in that office for a long time holding David's letter, staring at the blank signature line on the Conservation Trust documents. Outside, Macon was sleeping. Inside, I was about to make a decision that would change everything. If I do this, I said quietly, there's no going back. No, Catherine confirmed. Once the trust is established and filed with the state, it's irrevocable, permanent, forever. Forever. I thought about William Bennett working 30 years at a textile mill with 3 missing fingers. I thought about my father maintaining the land through droughts and recessions. I thought about David writing this letter from his hospital bed, trusting me to make the right choice. And I thought about Naomi, my beautiful manipulated daughter, and the man who was using her to destroy everything her family had built. Do you have a pen? I asked. Catherine handed me one. At 10:47 p.m. on Wednesday night, I signed my name on the Conservation Trust documents. Addison Marie Bennett. The ink was still wet when I set the pen down. It's done, Dee, Catherine said. She gathered the papers and began organizing them into folders. I'll file these with the state first thing tomorrow morning. By 8 a.m., this will be official and irrevocable. Before Logan's meeting, I said. Yes, before Logan's meeting. I stood up from the chair. My legs felt unsteady like I'd just climbed a mountain. Catherine, what do I do now? She looked at me with something like admiration in her eyes. Now you go home. And tomorrow morning when Naomi calls and she will call you, tell her the truth. That I've taken away her inheritance. No, Catherine said firmly. That you've saved her from making the biggest mistake of her life. She just doesn't know it yet. I drove home through the dark Georgia countryside, David's letter on the passenger seat beside me. The farm looked different as I pulled into the driveway. More permanent somehow. More protected. Or maybe it was just me who was different. I'd made my choice. I'd signed the papers. And tomorrow morning I would tell my daughter that I'd chosen the land over her. Even though what I'd really chosen was saving her from a man who would destroy her. Even though she'd never believe me. Even though I'd just lost the only family I had left. I went inside and sat in the darkness waiting for dawn. Waiting for Thursday. Waiting for the moment when everything would finally irreversibly break. My phone rang at 8:47 a.m. I'd been awake since 5 a.m., sitting at the kitchen table with cold coffee watching the sun rise over the Bennett farm for what I thought might be the last time. Not because I was leaving, but because after today everything about this place would feel different. Catherine had texted me at 7:30, documents filed with the state. Official as of 8:02 a.m. It's done. It's done. The Bennett farm was no longer mine. It belonged to a conservation trust now. Protected forever. Beyond my reach. Beyond anyone's reach. When the phone rang, Naomi's name lit up the screen. I let it ring twice before I answered. I needed those 2 rings to steady my breathing to prepare myself for what was coming. Mom! Her voice was high, frantic. Mom, where are you? I'm at home, sweetheart. We're at the meeting. Logan is presenting to the investors right now. They're asking about the property deed. They need confirmation that we have your agreement to... Naomi, I need to tell you something. Not now, Mom. Please not now. Just tell me you're bringing the papers. Tell me you're on your way to Atlanta with the documents. I'm not coming to Atlanta. Silence. Complete devastating silence. Then what? I closed my eyes. Naomi, I know about Logan's past. I know about Jessica Hartwell. I know about the lawsuits, the dead everything. Mom, don't... I hired a lawyer. I did a background check. And sweetheart, he's not who you think he is. He's used women before to access their family money. And he's doing it again. He's using you to get to the farm. You're lying, but her voice was shaking. You're making this up because you're jealous, because you can't stand that I'm happy. I have court documents, Naomi. I have records. His ex-wife told my lawyer everything. He married her because he thought her family had money. When they didn't, he left. And now he's doing the same thing to you. I heard muffled voices in the background. Logan's voice asking what was wrong. Naomi, I said I need to tell you something else. Something you're not going to want to hear. What? The word came out like a sob. I transferred the farm to a conservation trust. Yesterday. The documents were filed with the state this morning. Another silence. This one longer, deeper. You did what? The property is protected now. It can never be sold. It can never be subdivided. It can never be developed. It's... No! Her voice was rising. No, you can't do that. That's my inheritance. That's mine. It was never yours to sell, Naomi. It was ours to protect. I'll sue you. Logan says we can sue you for it's irrevocable, already filed, there's nothing to sue for. I heard shouting in the background now, Logan's voice angry and loud. Other voices, the investors probably realizing something was wrong. Then Logan was on the phone. Mrs. Bennett. His voice was ice. Do you realize what you've just done? Yes, I said calmly. I've protected my family's legacy. You've destroyed your daughter's future. You've humiliated her in front of serious investors. He stopped himself, and when he spoke again, his voice was different, colder, more calculating. You've just made a very big mistake. No, Logan, you made the mistake. You thought I was just some old woman you could manipulate. You thought I'd hand over 70 years of family history because you married my daughter. I love your daughter. No, you don't. You love what you thought she could give you. And now that you can't have it, how long do you think you'll stay? How dare you? Let me talk to Naomi. No, you've done enough damage. Let me talk to my daughter or I'm hanging up. A pause, then Naomi's voice thick with tears. Mom, how could you? How could you do this to me? My heart was breaking, but I kept my voice steady. Because I love you. Because I need to protect you from him. You don't get to decide what's best for me. You're right, I said. I don't. But I get to decide what happens to my family's legacy, and I choose to protect it. I choose to make sure no one, not Logan, not anyone can destroy what William and your grandfather and your father spent their lives building. I hate you. The words were quiet but absolute. I will never forgive you for this. I know, baby. I know. Don't call me that. Don't call me baby. You're not my mother anymore. The line went dead. I sat in my kitchen, the phone still pressed to my ear, listening to silence. Outside, the Georgia sun was climbing higher. The farm stretched out behind the house, 55 acres of protected land that my daughter would never inherit. I'd made my choice, and I'd just lost my daughter because of it. For 3 days, I heard nothing. No calls, no texts, no emails, just silence. I went to work at the hospital, providing in-home care for elderly patients who needed someone to check their blood pressure and organize their medications. I came home to an empty house. I ate dinner alone. I went to bed alone. The farm was still there. The field still stretched out behind the house. The old oak tree William had planted still stood strong. But something fundamental had changed. The silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It was oppressive, heavy with loss. On Sunday afternoon, exactly 1 week after the wedding, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Addison Bennett? A woman's voice, young, unfamiliar. Yes, who is this? My name is Jessica Hartwell. I was married to Logan Pierce. My breath caught. How did you get my number? Your lawyer gave it to me. Catherine Shaw. She said you might need to hear from me. About what happened after. After what? After Logan's plan fell apart. I sat down slowly on the porch steps. Tell me. Jessica's voice was tired, sad. Ms. Shaw called me Friday morning. She told me about the Conservation Trust, about how you'd protected your property, and she asked me to keep an eye on Logan's social media to see what he'd do next. And he's gone, left Atlanta, posted about a new opportunity in Miami on Instagram Friday night. Deleted his wedding photos, changed his relationship status to single. I felt like I'd been punched. He left Naomi. He didn't just leave her Mrs. Bennett. He cleaned out their joint bank account, $12,000, mostly her savings, filed for legal separation on Friday afternoon, moved out of their apartment and left her with the full lease. Oh my God. There's more. Jessica's voice got quieter. I have a mutual friend who saw them at the investor meeting Thursday. She said Logan started screaming at Naomi when he realized the property deal was dead. Called her useless. Said she'd ruined his life. The investors left, and Logan told Naomi that if she couldn't even control her own mother, she was worthless to him. I couldn't breathe. Where is Naomi now? I don't know. But Mrs. Bennett, you need to find her, because I know exactly how she's feeling right now. Humiliated, used, alone. And Logan made sure to destroy her self-worth before he left. That's what he does. Why are you telling me this? Because someone should have warned me. Someone should have told me that Logan Pierce was a predator who uses women and discards them. And maybe if they had, I wouldn't have wasted 2 years of my life on him." She paused. "You saved your daughter, Mrs. Bennet. She doesn't see it yet, but you saved her from what I went through. She hates me." "I know, but she'll understand eventually. It took me a year after my divorce to see Logan clearly. Give her time." After we hung up, I sat on the porch for a long time. Logan had left her, just like his ex-wife said he would. The moment he realized Naomi couldn't give him access to money, he'd abandoned her. And my daughter was somewhere in Atlanta, alone and broken. I picked up my phone and called her number. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. I sent a text. "Naomi, I heard what happened. Please let me know you're okay. I love you." No response. I tried calling 5 more times over the next hour. Nothing. Finally, at 4:30 p.m., I got in my car and drove to Atlanta. Naomi's apartment was in a complex on the outskirts of Atlanta. I'd been there once 6 months ago when she'd first moved in with Logan. It was a modest place, 2 bedrooms, generic tan siding, a parking lot that always seemed half empty. I pulled into that parking lot at 6:15 p.m. as the sun was starting to set. Her car was there, an old Honda Civic I'd helped her buy when she was 19. It was parked crooked in the space like she'd been in a hurry or too upset to care. I walked to apartment 214 and knocked. No answer. "Naomi," I called through the door. "Sweetheart, it's Mom. I just want to make sure you're okay." Silence. I knocked again, harder. "Naomi, please. I'm not leaving until I know you're safe." Finally, I heard movement inside. Footsteps, the click of a lock. The door opened 6 inches, held by a chain. Naomi looked out at me through the gap. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. She was wearing an old t-shirt, one of David's, that I'd given her years ago after he died. "What are you doing here?" Her voice was flat, emotionless. "I heard what happened. You wanted to gloat, to say I told you so." "No, baby. I wanted to make sure you're okay." "I'm fine." But she wasn't fine. Everything about her said she was broken. "Naomi, please let me in." "Why, so you can lecture me? So you can remind me that you were right about Logan?" "No, so I can help you." She laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound I'd never heard from her before. "Help me. You've already helped enough, Mom. You destroyed my marriage. You humiliated me in front of investors. You took away my future. Logan destroyed your marriage. He left you the moment he realized he couldn't get the farm. Because of you?" She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. "Because you couldn't just support me. You couldn't just trust me to make my own decisions." "Sweetheart, I do trust you. But Logan, don't." She held up her hand. "Don't say his name. Don't talk about him. Don't try to explain. Just go away, Mom. Please. I'm not going anywhere until you let me in." "Then you'll be standing there a long time." She started to close the door, but I put my hand against it. "Naomi Marie Bennet." I used the voice I'd used when she was a child and had done something dangerous. "Your husband abandoned you, left you with nothing, took your savings, and you're alone in this apartment, and I know you haven't eaten in days, and I know you're thinking terrible things about yourself right now. So you can be angry at me, you can hate me, but you are not shutting me out. Watch me." She pushed against the door, but I pushed back harder. "I'm your mother. I carried you for 9 months. I raised you alone after your father died. I worked 10,000 night shifts to give you opportunities, and I am not walking away because you're angry. You don't get to play the martyr card right now. I'm not playing anything. I'm standing on your doorstep because my daughter is hurting, and I don't care if she hates me. I care that she's safe." We stood there, both of us pushing against the door, both of us crying. Finally, Naomi's strength gave out. The door stayed open. "Why?" she whispered. "Why did you do it? Why did you take the farm away?" "Because your father asked me to. 14 years ago, before he died, he wrote me a letter. He told me that if anyone ever tried to take the farm, if anyone ever tried to use you to destroy our legacy, I should protect it, even if it meant losing you." Naomi stared at me through the gap in the door. "Dad knew. He knew that people see land as money. He knew someone might try to manipulate you one day, and he prepared for it. He set up the conservation trust before he died. He just trusted me to activate it when the time came. So this was Dad's idea. The trust was his idea. Signing the papers was mine. You chose land over me. No, I said firmly. I chose to protect you from a man who was using you. And I was right, Naomi. He left you the moment the deal fell apart. Doesn't that tell you something? She was silent for a long moment. Then slowly she unhooked the chain and opened the door fully. The apartment was a disaster. Boxes half packed, clothes scattered across the floor, dishes piled in the sink, an eviction notice taped to the refrigerator Logan hadn't paid the last 2 months' rent. Naomi walked to the couch and sat down, pulling her knees to her chest like she was trying to make herself as small as possible. I sat beside her. Not too close, just close enough. I was so stupid, she whispered. You weren't stupid. You were young and in love. I knew, Mom. I knew from the beginning. She looked at me, her eyes red and raw. When I met Logan, I mentioned the farm in passing, just casually talking about where I grew up, and I saw something change in his eyes. Interest. Real interest. And I told myself I was imagining it, that he was just interested in my life. But I knew. My heart broke. Oh, Naomi. He asked me to marry him 2 weeks after I showed him pictures of the property. 2 weeks, Mom. And I told myself it was romantic, that it was passionate. But it was calculated. It was always about the farm. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted to believe I was wrong. I wanted to believe someone could love me for me, not for what I had. And because, she stopped, her voice breaking, because I was tired of being poor. Tired of watching you work yourself to death. Tired of worrying about money all the time. Logan promised me a different life. A better life. Sweetheart, we weren't that poor. We weren't rich, Mom. We've never been rich. And Logan's family, they were so sophisticated, so put together. And I thought if I married him, I could be like that too. I could finally be someone who mattered. You've always mattered. Not like that. Not in the way Logan's family did. They had money and status and confidence. And I thought if I could just give Logan what he wanted, if I could just convince you to develop the farm, then I'd earn my place in that world. I understood then. Naomi hadn't just been manipulated. She'd been complicit in her own manipulation because she'd wanted the dream Logan was selling. But you were right, she continued, about everything. He started getting angry after the meeting, screaming at me in the car on the way home, saying I was useless, that I couldn't even handle my own mother, that I'd ruined his life. She was crying harder now. And then Friday morning he told me he was leaving. Just like that. Packed his bags, took all the money from our account and left. Didn't even say goodbye properly. Just said this isn't working and walked out. I put my arm around her shoulders. She stiffened at first, then slowly leaned into me. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry for everything I said. For choosing him over you. For believing his lies about you. For almost destroying the farm. You don't need to apologize. Yes, I do. You tried to protect me, and I called you controlling. You tried to save me, and I said I hated you. And all along you were right. About Logan, about everything. We sat in silence for a moment. Then I said, Do you know why your father set up the Conservation Trust? She shook her head. Because he understood something I'm only just learning. Some things are too important to belong to any one person. The farm isn't just property, Naomi. It's 70 years of our family's work. It's your great-grandfather losing 3 fingers to buy it. It's your grandfather maintaining it through droughts. It's your father loving it every single day of his life. And it's too precious to be turned into money. But now I can't inherit it. No, I admitted. You can't. It belongs to the future, to everyone, to a conservation trust that will protect it forever. I'm sorry I tried to take it. I'm sorry you felt you needed to. She looked up at me. What do I do now, Mom? I have no money. Logan took everything. I have no job. I quit it to focus on the real estate business. I have no husband. I have nothing. That's not true, I said. You have me. You have the farmhouse. You have a room that's been waiting for you since you left. You have time to figure out what you want, not what someone else wants from you. You want me to come home? I've always wanted you to come home. She started crying again, but this time it was different. Not the desperate, broken crying from before. This was the crying of someone who'd been carrying too much weight and was finally able to put it down. Okay, she whispered. Okay, Mom. Take me home. The Saturday morning bus pulled into the Bennett Farm driveway at 9 a.m. sharp. I watched from the porch as 18 children poured out ages 8 to 14, their voices high and excited. They were from the Atlanta Youth Center, kids from low-income families who rarely got to leave the city, who'd never seen what 55 acres of protected land looked like. Miss Addison, a little girl with braids, ran up to me. Is this where we're planting the trees? That's right, Jasmine. Right over there by the old oak tree your great-great-grandfather planted. Naomi came out of the house carrying boxes of gardening gloves and small shovels. She'd been living with me for 5 months now, working part-time at the county library, taking online classes in environmental education, slowly rebuilding her life. We weren't the same as we'd been before Logan. We probably never would be. Some damage takes years to heal, and some never heals completely. But we were learning how to be family again. Okay, everyone, Naomi called out. Let's form groups of 3. We're planting native Georgia trees today, oak saplings from seeds collected right here on this farm. I watched her work with the children, showing them how to dig the holes, how to place the saplings gently, how to pack the soil around the roots. She was patient, kind, completely present. This was the daughter I remembered, the one who'd existed before Logan Pierce. Around noon, after the planting was done and the children were eating the lunch we'd prepared, a young boy came up to me. Miss Addison, can I ask you something? Of course, Noah. Why can't you just sell this land and make a lot of money? My mom says land like this is worth millions. I knelt down to his level. You know what, Noah, a long time ago my great-grandfather worked 30 years at a factory to save enough money to buy this farm. He worked so hard he lost 3 fingers in an accident. But he kept working because he believed this land was worth more than money. More than millions of dollars. More than all the money in the world. Because this land will be here long after I'm gone. Long after you're grown up. Long after your children are grown up. And every person who comes here will be able to learn about nature, about history, about what it means to protect something precious. He thought about this. So you're like a guardian, exactly like a guardian. That's pretty cool, he said and ran back to his friends. Naomi had been listening. She came over and sat beside me on the porch steps. Do you ever regret it? She asked, signing over the farm. I thought about the question carefully. No, but I regret that you had to hurt before you could understand why I did it. I understand now. It took me a while, but I understand. Dad was right. Some inheritances aren't about property. They're about principles. I found his letter in your room, I said. The one he left you before he died. The one about choosing between money and people who truly love you. She nodded. I read it again last week, for the first time in years, and I realized I failed that test, Mom. I chose money. I chose Logan's promises over your love. But you found your way back. Only because you refused to let me go. Only because you made the hard choice I couldn't make. She looked out at the children playing in the fields. I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to deserve that choice. You don't have to deserve my love, Naomi. You just have to accept it. We sat together, mother and daughter, watching the children explore the protected land. In the distance, the old oak tree William had planted in 1954 still stood strong. The fields David had loved stretched out toward the horizon. Everything had changed. And somehow everything was finally right. I'm standing in the cemetery on the hill overlooking the Bennett farm. David's grave is simple, just his name dates and the words beloved husband and father. I come here once a month to tell him about Naomi, about the farm, about everything that's happened. Today I have a letter to leave him. Dear David, it's been 1 year since I signed the papers you prepared for me. 1 year since I made the choice you trusted me to make. You were right about everything. Logan Pierce left Naomi the moment he realized he couldn't have the farm. He took her money and disappeared, just like you predicted someone might do. But here's what you didn't predict. Naomi came back to me. She's living at the farmhouse now, working with the Conservation Trust to create educational programs, teaching children about land stewardship and family legacy. She's found purpose in protecting what she once wanted to destroy. The farm is beautiful, David. The trust manages it well. We've planted new trees, started a community garden, opened the property to school groups and nature programs. Last month, 200 people came through for Earth Day. Your great-grandfather's oak tree still stands. Your grandfather's fields still bloom. Your love is still present in every acre. Naomi asked me yesterday if I regret not being able to leave her the property. I told her the truth. I'm leaving her something better than land. I'm leaving her the knowledge that some things are too precious to own. That real love means protecting people even when they hate you for it. That legacy isn't about what we possess, it's about what we preserve. She cried when I said that. Then she hugged me and said, "Thank you for not giving up on me." I think you'd be proud of her, David. I think you'd be proud of both of us. I miss you every day, but I feel you here in this land in the choices I make and the strength I find when I need it most. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for the letter. Thank you for knowing 14 years ago that this moment would come. Forever yours, Addie. I placed the letter under a stone at his grave and turned to walk back down the hill. Naomi is waiting by the car. She's wearing jeans and a Bennett Farm Conservation Trust t-shirt we had made for volunteers. Her hair is pulled back in a ponytail. She looks healthy, strong, purposeful. She looks like herself again. "Ready to go?" she asks. "Ready." We drive back to the farmhouse together. There's a planning meeting this afternoon for next month's programs. More children coming to learn about the land. More families discovering what conservation means. The Bennett farm will endure. Not because it belongs to us, but because we chose to let it belong to everyone. Some gifts are only understood after they're given. Some sacrifices only make sense in hindsight. And some love only proves itself when it's willing to let go.